Welcome to Resilient Creative. This week I'm interviewing a good friend of mine called Rachael Forsyth. She is a multi-instrumentalist, composer and arranger, and also a music teacher based in the southwest of England. I've known Rachael for 18 years and we've worked together on a number of projects, including performance and composition. Hello, Rachael.
Hello.
How are you surviving lockdown?
All right. Is it really 18 years though, Helen?
It is. 2002, I think we met, didn't we, at university?
It just gets longer every year.
I know. I think we've just had a special anniversary as well. I think one of our colleagues mentioned that we graduated 15 years ago.
We tried to ignore that one.
Yes, a long time ago. Where does the time go? Okay, I'm going to jump straight in with the first question.
Go on then.
How did you get into composing and arranging?
By accident, actually. Obviously, music was always a thing that I did. I never really wanted to do music, to be honest. It was just a thing.
Okay.
So I was like, can't think of anything else to do. Did GCSE music? What A levels are you going to do? I'll do music. Yeah, okay. Would have loved to go to university to do biology, actually. But you had to do
that.
No way, chemistry. Can't do maths. Terrible. I'm a musician. I can add up to 4. That's fine. So yeah, all sorts of different strands that I was thinking about going to. If I hadn't gone to A levels, I would have probably gone into something like horticulture.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I just kind
of
went.
You like your gardening, actually, don't you? And you have an allotment.
I do, and I'm getting into jams and jellies and preserving, which is quite nice. So I kind of just fell into A level by accident. Well, not accident, just couldn't think of anything else to do because I just do music. Ended up doing A level, and then went, I'll go to university and do music as well. I met some lovely people like yourself. Never liked composing at school. Hated it.
I remember you were like that at university, actually.
Yeah, didn't enjoy A level. Really hated that A level. Had to do it.
In fact, if I think about it, Rach, there was one particular time at university, I actually wrote the first 16 bars of your composition.
Did you? Oh, was that like a minuet thing?
No, it was the Schoenberg, wasn't it?
Oh, the weird. Oh.
Yeah. I think it was. I remember that. I remember you ringing me up, going, "Come round, I can't do it."
I just got to do it. I will give you chocolates and snacks. I always failed on the snacks because I always forgot that you're vegetarian. Here's some chicken. So yeah, I always hated it, and I always thought that I could never do it. A bit like improvising and stuff. Hated it. Thought I could never ever do it.
Mm.
And then left university. And then kind of went, oh, what am I going to do? I'll do some teaching. And then I found that I really love teaching. Really, really love it. And from there, I kind of went, you know what, I'm going to write some songs for my students. And I just started and went, oh, that song doesn't quite work for this instrument. Or, oh, I've got a flute, a xylophone and some bagpipes. Oh, isn't any music for that. Let's write some music for it so it's a bit more fun.
I think a lot of school music work lands up like that. You land up with a random selection of instruments and you realise that you haven't got the skills you need to provide those students with something to learn. So you land up either writing something or rearranging something for a peculiar set of instruments, and you just go with it. You have to be very creative.
Yes, you've got one student that's grade 6 and one person that knows one note. Which is quite fun.
Encourage everyone.
Yeah. But yeah, no, and then I sort of started doing it because I had to do it, and then I just got bitten by the bug and I went, ooh, I quite like this. And then I started doing more, and then I just can't imagine not composing now, which is lovely.
So you landed up working with some orchestras and big bands. How did you make those connections with those groups? How did you approach them?
Kind of just being there, really. Again,
so one of them, you were in the orchestra, is that right?
Yep, yeah. Because composing I came to really late, sort of age-wise. So because I wasn't going, I'm a composer, I was more of a case of just wanting to get out and wanting to play. So a lot of the compositions that I started doing early on were sort of community settings. Okay. For sort of adult orchestras and returning twos bands, and sort of And it was sort of finding that a lot of people want to play, and they want to play together, especially at the moment. But a lot of the music out there that a lot of orchestras and bands get access to quite easily don't take into account that people might only know three notes. And they can do
It's
those
about
three notes well.
wanting to meet people where they're at. I think that's I'm picking up here, is that you try and make music accessible to people at different levels, but get them to play together so they get that experience.
Well, yeah, because it's supposed to be fun. And there's nothing more soul-destroying than presented with a piece of Schoenberg and going, and the shutters come down and they just don't know where to go. Whereas if you have something that's attainable, not belittling what they can do, not dumbing it down, but my students will very much yes, it's Rachael is a thing now.
You moved a couple of times actually, didn't you? And one time it wasn't so far, but the last move was a couple of 100 miles. So starting over again, how did you approach groups, or did you get in contact with them, or did you join the orchestra? How did you make the connections down there?
It's really difficult if you don't know them personally. It's always a case of who you know.
And that very much is music, actually. It is all about who you know.
Always, because somebody goes, oh yeah, no, my friend Dave, he needs something. So we moved from sort of near London down to the southwest, so that's a big jump. A lot of the time, orchestras and things just aren't interested. A lot of the time, they've got the program set for the whole year, and if you're not a well-established person, then they don't really want to know, which is a shame. It's not that they're not interested in new music; it's just that there's a fine line, because orchestras need to get punters on seats to come and listen. So you bring out the big guns, you do Beethoven, you do things.
You almost want to get your music slipped into a program where they've got some big names, and then you could say, I might do a piece before the interval, just a short piece, just to get your name known and to prove your skills, I guess. So it's all about getting a mix into what's already well known, isn't it?
It is, and the difficulty being a composer at the moment is that you fall into two categories. You're either a new composer, or you're a composer who writes what I would call melodic. And a lot of ensembles and bands aren't willing to sort of chat to you about it, because they just assume that as a composer that's writing at the moment, you are going to write something that's going to be weird. And they worry about weird, and I think there is a fine line between accessible weird and pushing the boundaries weird.
And what genre would you say a lot of your compositions are?
I do a mix. I would call myself actually as a songwriter, but somebody that writes with instruments rather than words.
Okay. And would you say it's classical or more popular styles?
It's a bit of everything, actually, really. It probably is well, it depends what I'm writing for. At the moment, I'm writing a lot of jazz. So that's the thing. Whereas sometimes I just write straight out classical stuff. Everything's kind of all mixed all in together. There's usually a classical, folk, jazz twang to everything.
And you've arranged for orchestras as well, haven't you?
Yeah, I've done sort of I did a Sunken Cathedral, the Debussy, for wind band. That was lovely. That was great fun. I've done some sort of pop pieces written as jazz pieces, and and again, I've taken sort of well-known folk songs, and then arranged them for like a choir and orchestra to sing.
Lovely. What I'm understanding here is it sounds like you're taking a lot of music and trying to make it more accessible, both for bands and orchestras, but also for audiences. Music they might have heard before, but on different instruments, and just broadening their range.
Yes. Yeah, I like people to enjoy what they're doing, and that's what I love, really. I like writing stuff, but I like writing stuff that I know people are going to love. So whether it's something brand new, or if it's just a slightly different arrangement of a jazz piece plays classically, or a classical plays jazzly, or there's always a little tiny excerpt in most of my pieces. But I always have a little chuckle. I'll see if anybody's noticed that. Quite often people don't notice them, but I go,
Now,
I
the other
like.
thing is you write music tutor books. What
I,
made you diversify into that market? It's quite a crowded market already.
yeah, I know, especially when you have sort of people like Pam Wedgwood,
Joe, I was
who's
just
my
thinking,
idol. I
Pam.
love Pam. Yes,
We
you
all
do.
love Pam.
We all. And she's so nice as well. Yeah, you do. Yeah, there are a lot out there, and a lot of people that are out there, very well known and very well loved. There's always room for one more, I think.
Hmm. And have you
Sadly.
found that you teach, you can write tutor books, you compose, you arrange, you perform, you do some session work as well. You do a lot of work with pantomimes, don't you?
Hmm.
Do you find that you need to diversify all the time to keep the work coming in?
Oh god, yeah,
Mm.
yeah. Yeah. Musical pies. You got to have many musical pies or balls juggling in the air. You've just got to. I mean, there was, yeah. I love working for the local pantomime. That's great. That's really good fun, and I've had another offshoots come for that. So I
Mm.
did a big recording project for another local pantomime, which is, oh, I was glad to see the back of that one. That was horrendous, and that was a lot of click track piano recording, which is, oh, that made my brain hurt. But yeah, it was really good fun, but that was so tiring.
Yeah.
But yeah, got to do a bit of that. Got to do a bit of whatever. And during lockdown, a few of the bands from up north that I'm in with have just got in touch and said, look, could you do this so we can keep playing? I've been doing lots of arrangements so people can do sort of recordings and they splice them together and that sort of thing. Just anything to keep everybody going at the moment.
Obviously, now we are just emerging from lockdown. We've had 4 months here in the UK. I
Yeah.
read some very difficult reports last week. No singing, so I'm a singing teacher and piano teacher, so that's kind of damaged
Yeah.
some of the work I do. No wind instruments and no brass instruments in public, which has affected churches as well as theatres and the musicians generally.
Yeah.
What steps have you taken to survive in this period of time?
Well, compositionally, I've been a lot busier, which has been
That's
lovely.
interesting.
I think it's because
A lot of people are saying that there isn't much work out there. Have you created work for yourself, or have you been
maybe I've
approached?
stolen it all. I don't know. Yeah, no, it's just all of. It's because I don't know whether it's because I'm always there, hanging out on Twitter or whatever. I think it's because I'm just there, and people know that they can just drop me a line and just go, Rach, we need this. Any chance of it? And I go, yeah, sure. And yeah, I don't mind
Actually, the
sitting.
good thing about some of those arranging and composition works is you can do them any time of day as well. So I think if
Yeah.
you're a working parent, you can go, right, I'll do this after 8 o'clock at night.
Once they've gone to bed, 7:15. There we go. So yeah, that's been quite good. I mean, personally, I've not found it too bad because I'm pretty good at being antisocial anyway. But I've been teaching online since about 2015.
This is one of the things I wanted to talk to you about because you anticipated a trend long before we came to this season. And when we went into lockdown, you just carried on as normal because you take a huge chunk of your business online 5 years ago, which 5 years ago, some people were doing that, but I would say probably only about 15% of music teachers at that point.
No, it was very much I got a lot of funny faces when I said that I offered it. It was very poo-pooed. It was very, looking down your nose at me when I was doing it. The reason I did it is because I had a dying baby boy. So it just meant that I couldn't have students coming in and out of the house because I didn't know if and when he was going to sleep. And bless, I knew my students really well, so it could be that I could have baby and bottle and still be teaching, which is lovely.
That's a really interesting thought because a lot of women in music struggle once they've had children. And I know a lot of women say that once they've had their children, the performance work dries up, not because they don't want to perform, because they don't get asked. And they have to find other ways. So we often land up teaching, which is partly what happened to me. I've been teaching now for 25 years, but the majority of that teaching has probably been since I had my children 12 years ago. And so it's about finding ways of carrying on. And actually, that's a good point, that if you've just had a baby and you need to be able to work, teaching is an option because you can do it in the evenings and you can do it on Saturday mornings. But the whole online things means you don't have to have a tidy house when a student comes in.
There is that. It's always embarrassing when I have to
You're
pan over.
square of the screen.
Yeah, yeah, a little bit. Yeah, no. Yeah, so, and then because I moved again, because I did that big jump to the southwest, which was always going to be a bit of a scary pants change. Yeah, I had 3 or 4 students who said, we don't want to lose you, so we'll Skype. And they weren't convinced by it. But then actually, the best thing they've said, I mean, what I've really enjoyed with the lockdown thing was because when it all started kicking off, I could help. I had a lot of teachers who I kind of went, no, don't panic.
Yeah.
It's because you can moan over the internet at students as well as moaning when they're stood next to you. It's fine. It's no difference. You can nag dynamics, articulation, breathing. Done. There you go.
Yeah. I agree with my side of the business. I wasn't teaching online, but lots of my other music work was online, so I was having to Skype people or Zoom call them quite regularly. Also, I work for other organisations, and we're all over the country with one of the music therapy organisations I work with, so we tend to Zoom or do Google Hangout. So it was no skin off my nose to change that quickly. But I do know some of my vocal teaching colleagues found it really hard. How do you manage teaching piano?
I get them to kind of set it up so that you sort of look down the piano, so you get a little snapshot. So I kind of get hands and notes.
To their face.
Usually they sort of bend forward a little bit. So quite often, well, because they tend to be quite younger, they're quite shorter. So most of mine at the moment, middle C position. I do have some quite advanced ones, but again, I just kind of have to take it on faith that they're doing the fingering for the lower octaves, which they assure me they are, but we should be checking that when we get back to normal lessons. So yeah, it does work. I mean, I've had some scratch from beginners, saxes and things, and actually, okay, it can be a little bit difficult trying to show me the reeds on properly and things like that, but I've not found much of a difference, to be quite honest.
When you take on new students and they are starting from scratch on an online lesson, do you find it harder to create a rapport with them from the word go? No.
No, I really don't. I can be weird over the internet, and I can be weird.
Yes.
A lot. Yeah, I've had a couple who were obviously quite nervous, but after about 5 minutes, they went, "Okay, this lady isn't that scary." She can be quite nice.
Yeah. Because I find a huge amount of teaching starts with the rapport. If you've got that rapport with a student and you can laugh together or enjoy a piece of music together, then you know that you're going to be on a good learning road.
Definitely.
And I know some teachers have been saying, how is that going to work online? And I've not found it difficult, but all of the students I have online are existing. But obviously you've done this for quite some time now.
Yeah, to be quite honest, this is the busiest pickup of new students I've had ever.
Do you think that's because people are looking for things to do?
I think it's people looking for things to do, and actually I know it was one mum who their daughter had been lessons at school. School weren't able to offer online lessons outside of school for whatever reason. So she started having lessons with me instead during the lockdown. And then she's realised that I'm actually quite good at my job. And she's very nice. And the difference between when she started with me and now, completely different. So it's just all been recommendation, actually.
It's interesting because the press are giving the music industry and entertainment industry quite a difficult time at the moment. And I'm not decrying that. I've got friends who are completely out of work. But I think there is a need, and people are asking for online lessons to fill up their time, to make use of that time, and suddenly realizing this is an opportunity. It's not an easy time for anyone, but if they can make the best of it and enjoy something by learning an instrument or learning to sing, then the time isn't totally wasted.
And mental health wise, just having that expression. I've been doing an online jam session for my adult woodwindists.
How many do you have on that?
We've got 4 or 5 regulars now, so I'm now opening it up to anybody else that wants to join in. It's only 5 a session, but we've now found a way of, because obviously over the internet it's not the easiest for musical instruments to play together. It's pretty impossible, but we found a really good way of just being able to jam. So they have a bit of a chat, we have a jam that I set them all sorts of horrible compositional.
I'm talking about this way that you found. What is that way?
Zoom, actually. It's all about making sure, for example, if they're all playing together, they've got to be on mute, so they can only hear me and play along. But if we're doing solos so they can hear each other, then they just take turns.
Okay. There is a couple of second delay with Zoom. I've done it with singing students, and they are always at least half a second to a second behind me.
There are a couple of settings you can shuffle.
Yeah.
Yeah, which makes it a little bit easier. They've just kind of got to get it's kind of a good way for them, really, because they've got to get their headphones on and they've just got to get their blinkers on and stay in time and ignore the
That's good though, because they're still getting ensemble practice and being together and having that community. And as you say, from a mental health point of view, that is brilliant. We can still be apart but be together.
Definitely. And it is so sad for those sort of amateur orchestras and community organisations that are allowed to get going, but it's only strings. The brass and the woodwind players and the singers especially are sort of going, yeah. And it's such a shame that they're missing out at the moment. But there are a lot of on joining things, and there's lots of because Jess Gilliam started that recording a thing and joining it all together thing as well, which is quite nice. That's quite nice. So
okay, let's change tack a bit. Who is your favourite musician? That's a difficult question, isn't it? I don't think I can answer that.
I don't think I can answer that. I can't. I am too eclectic. I am a musical magpie.
Can you give us a list of who you like then?
Well, it depends what genre we're talking.
In any genre, I don't mind.
Okay, all out top favourite. I'd have to say Tower of Power would be up there.
Okay.
Funky Soul Band, love them. Love ska.
You've been in quite a few ska bands, actually, haven't you?
I've been in a lot of ska bands. So my favourite, if I want an uplifting thing, it would have to be Echo 4+2 from Bad Manners.
Okay.
Einaudi, I like that. I know I shouldn't say that. Because again, I know he's quite.
No, you played a lot of Einaudi in college, actually.
Yeah, I know. He's just frowned upon by the serious composers as being a bit. I do quite like a lot of my contemporaries, other people on Twitter that I follow. They're always quite fun. I just anything. I quite like playing Mozart because my hands are quite small. Round Midnight, that has to be up there. It's a top favourite love song. Favourite. Nina Simone, Ella Fitzgerald.
I'm going to put the cat amongst the pigeons a bit because obviously you are known as a saxophonist. And are you going to tell us which instrument you learnt first, Rachel?
Recorder.
That wasn't what I was thinking. And you also play clarinet and you play the flute. So which instrument did you learn first?
Oh, is this the whole clarinet thing again? Yeah, I thought we could bring that up. No, I went. No, I did recorder at school, and then did a bit of trumpet actually, and then piano, and then I failed my grade 1, and then at 13, yeah, I did. I
failed my grade 5 piano and had to retake it, and people were surprised at that. But you know, I always found it was the absolute making of me, because a bit of failure made me go, what's wrong? What did I do wrong? I need to try harder. And I sank really low and I was like, oh, this is horrendous. And I'd only failed it by 4 marks. But it was the absolute making of me, because I went, you know, it's not failure. I learned from it and I went back and I got it.
Oh, see, I gave up.
That's me going, I'm resilient. And you're going, yeah.
It was a thing of, you know, I don't remember being taught, and I don't remember enjoying it. So I kind of went, you know what,
You wouldn't teach it now, though, if you thought you couldn't do it.
No,
And you're a very good pianist. When I've heard you play, you played for all. Well, you played the pantomime. You played for all sorts of people.
Yeah, I came back to it after a while. I had to step away and go, no, and then I taught myself like how I teach now, which is the way that I wish I had been taught. So I think if I'd have been, I think if I'd have had me as a teacher, I would have practiced.
Yes, it's true. I think as a teacher, I teach in the way that I would have longed to have been taught. And my last two singing teachers actually were very good. And I was an adult though when I had them, and I wish I'd had them as a child.
Good teacher makes a big difference.
Anyway, back to your list of instruments. So you did recorder, you did trumpet, you did piano. Then what came next?
Then I went sax. Suddenly
That's the controversial bit.
It is. I don't know why. I just suddenly woke up one morning and went, I want to play the saxophone. And my mum went, no. And I went, I want to play the saxophone. She went, no. Funnily enough, she let me have a hamster a lot quicker. It might have been a cost thing.
I don't remember you bringing that to college, so that can't have lasted long.
Wait, lived for ages, my hamster. So I nagged, and then eventually wore them down. Promise of tidying rooms and cleaning out said hamster probably. And then actually they took me to a shop to try one. They balked a bit of the price. And they went, how much? So this, I think, I was 13. I think I'm about the same size now as I was then. So I wasn't horrendously big. I wasn't horrendously small. But they gave me a tenor sax.
Right.
Pretty big.
Yeah.
So it was far too big. And
How old were you?
13.
Yeah, that's quite big for a 13-year-old.
That is very big for 13. Yeah, definitely not for a 13-year-old. So it was far too big, but he gave it to me, and I could see the look on my parents' face and the guy in the shop's face, sort of going, "Should never play that." Put it in my mouth, played a scale straight away. It was just completely natural, and it was just like,
yeah. I know. Traditionally, in the woodwind world, you learn clarinet first, don't you, and then you progress to sax. And that yours are different, and you learnt it the other way around.
Yeah. A lot of people, it's not. It used to be the way to do it, in that you'd start smaller on the clarinet and then you'd progress to saxes. But a lot of people are actually now starting on the sax and then going to the clarinet later. So I'm a trendsetter, you see.
Excellent.
Yeah. No, yeah, I do love the clarinet. But it's so annoying at times. I've never met a more unforgiving instrument.
It does squeak a lot, I have to say, when you're learning. You get some lovely squeaks.
It just kind of squeaks just to illustrate that you're not doing it correctly. Flute, no. Oboe, fine. Every other instrument, obviously got quite a lot of instruments secreted around this house.
I think if you're a singer and it can be very unforgiving, and then you've got that horrible thing of the sound has come from my body, not from the instrument. And I get a lot of singers who are just mortified that this squeak or a growl has come out of their mouth, or it's wobbled, and or it's come out of my body, so I must be able to control it. Yes, you can, but you will have to get over the pain of embarrassment and learn how to control that.
It happens.
Yeah. Right then, Rich, I think we're going to draw it to a close there. It's been lovely to talk to you today. Lots to take from your interview about being resilient and being brave with technology and using failure to move forward with teaching a career and expecting the unexpected, I think, if I was going to sum that up with you.
Very much.
Well, thank you for your time today.
Most welcome. Thank you, Helen.